Hey, 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 how you doing, my friends? TJ here. Want to keep going on this topic I've been ranting and raving about here lately. Zionism. A lot of y'all are probably wondering why is he always talking about Zionism? Because I believe that it is the most important topic of our time, and maybe uh, of the last few generations. It should have been, anyways. I think a lot of people have been being deceived for some time now. And we're kind of having a great awakening now. And I want to be a part of that awakening and try to inform my circle of influence. So I feel led to do this. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep talking about it. Feel like that is where we're supposed to be as the Church of Jesus Christ right now. That is our task at hand. And honestly, I believe it's the same. We are struggling with the exact same forces that Jesus was confronted with when he walked the earth. So I wanted to get into what. Well, first of all, I want to preface this with a disclaimer that I try to put on all these videos where I talk about Zionism. I am not anti Semitic. I do not hate Jewish people. I do not wish ill will towards Jewish people. I don't even wish harm on Zionists. I used to be a Zionist. I was a Zionist Christian for uh, most of my life until my mid 30s. And so I do not, there's a lot of people that I love and care about that are still Zionist Christians. And I do not wish harm on them. I want to take the scales off their eyes, and because I believe they're being deceived. And it's a dangerous deception. Because I believe that they're being deceived by Satan himself. I believe Satan himself is behind the Zionist movement. I want to get into the Talmud, which, if you're not aware of what the Talmud is, Talmudic Jews, who I do not believe are real Jews, I believe they are imposters, but they make up about 99% of the Jewish population in Israel. 99% of Jews in Israel are Talmudic Jews that believe in the Talmud. Talmud was a book that was written after the Torah. The Torah is basically the Old Testament, what Christians view as the Old Testament. Talmud came after Jesus. And I want to dip into a little bit of what is in the Talmud. And I've got some graphics that I prepared for this video. And I'm just going to bring them up one by one. You may have heard there are 6 to 8 genders in the Talmud. This is actually, a lot of people don't realize this is where transgenderism originated, was in the Talmud. And so I'm going to bring up just to show you. This is online. This is just a screenshot. But if you look here, it's My Jewish Learning. And it says the 7 genders in the Talmud. Judaism has recognized non-binary persons for millennia. And you can Google this. Look, you can even look up Rachel Chinerman. He's the author of this. And if we look at this next graphic here, it actually lists the Talmud, a huge authoritative compendium of Jewish legal traditions, contains I can't see that word. Okay. Contains in fact, no less than 7 gender designations, including, and you can see here it lists them as Zakar is a male, Nekeva is a female, androgynous, having both male and female characteristics, a tum-tum, lacking sexual characteristics, Alanit, identified female at birth without developing secondary female sexual characteristics at puberty. Saris, Hama, identified male at birth without developing secondary male sexual characteristics at puberty. Saris Autumn, identified male at birth without developing secondary male sexual characteristics because of castration. So as you can see there, that's 7. Some people say that it's 6 with two variable genders, and then some say that it's 7. So it's anywhere from 6 to 8 genders, depending on which source you look at. This one here, this is the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, the 8 genders of the Talmud. And then if we, so that covers the genders. We're going to look next at, check this out. Rava, when they talk about Rava, that is a rabbi. He was like in the 3rd century, I believe, is when he was alive. And it says, Rava said that this is what the Mishnah is saying. Mishnah is like the core text of the Talmud. So this is like a rabbi translating what the Mishnah is saying, what the Torah is saying, what the Talmud is saying. So we look at this, let's see here. An adult man who engaged in intercourse with a minor girl less than 3 years old has done nothing, as intercourse with a girl less than 3 years old is tantamount to poking a finger into the eye. In the case of an eye, after a tear falls from it, another tear forms to replace it. Similarly, the ruptured hymen of the girl younger than 3 is restored. A young boy who engaged in intercourse with an adult woman renders her as one whose hymen was ruptured by wood. And with regard to the case of a woman whose hymen was ruptured by wood itself, there is a dispute between Rabbi Meir and the rabbis. So basically it's saying that this is crazy to me, that if an adult man engages in intercourse with a minor girl less than 3 years old, he has done nothing. Pretty sick. Pretty sick stuff here. Like I said, I believe Satan is behind Zionism. Okay, let's look at this, Onkelos. So Onkelos was actually a Roman who converted to Judaism. And it's strange because according to the Talmud, and this is the book and the verse here, Gittin 57a, Onkelos raises Yeshu from the dead. Now they refer to Jesus as Yeshu. And we Christians refer to him as Jesus or Yeshua. Real Jews referred to him as Yeshua. Messianic Jews refer to him as Yeshua. That's his name, Yeshua. And Onkelos, according to the Talmud, Onkelos actually performed necromancy and raised Jesus from the dead. So it actually confirms that Jesus was raised from the dead. But in their belief, it was done by Onkelos. And so it says here, Onkelos then went and raised Jesus the Nazarene from the grave through necromancy. Onkelos said to him, "Who is most important in that world where you are now?" Jesus said to him, "The Jewish people." Onkelos asked him, "Should I then attach myself to them in this world?" Jesus said to him, Their welfare you shall seek, their misfortune you shall not seek. For anyone who touches them is regarded as if he were touching the apple of his eye." And that's kind of a reference to several Old Testament verses that refer to the Jewish people as the apple of God's eye. Onkelos said to him, "What is the punishment?" And he's talking to Jesus. "What is the punishment of that man," Jesus himself, "in the next world?" Jesus said to him, "He is punished with boiling excrement. As the master said, anyone who mocks the words of the sages will be sentenced to boiling excrement." So what he's basically saying here, and this is in the Talmud, and they believe this, is that Jesus is being punished for eternity by boiling in excrement. That's poo-poo, for those that don't know what excrement is. That's their belief. Like I said, satanic. Let's look at this next one here. This is another book in the Talmud, Shabbat 133b. Now the Gemara is basically like the interpretation of the Talmud. And Mitzitza is actually circumcision. But it says here, we suck it out, etc. Our Papa said, if a surgeon does not suck the wound, it is dangerous and he is dismissed. You might say that this blood is stored up. Therefore, he informs us that it is the result of a wound. And it is like a bandage in cumin. Just as when one does not apply a bandage in cumin, there is danger. So here too, if one does not do it, there is danger. So the Talmud explains Mitzitza, the mohel sucking, and this is the guy performing the circumcision. It's usually a rabbi that performs the circumcision, called the mohel, sucking the blood with his mouth and spitting it out as a medical necessity. So, more depraved, sick things going on here with little babies, I might add. I'm going to click on this next one here. This one is another book in the Talmud, Bava Kama 37b. So it says, an ox of a Jew that gored an ox of a Gentile. Gentiles are anybody who's not Jewish, the Jewish owner is exempt, but an ox of a Gentile that gored an ox of a Jew, whether the ox was innocent or forewarned, its owner pays full damages. And you can just, back then, an ox was probably one of the most valuable things somebody has or had. So you can just kind of bring that to today's world, and it might be somebody's car or somebody's house or whatever it is of value. If they mess up the belongings or harm the belongings of a Gentile, then they are not to blame. But if a Gentile harms something of theirs, then they have to pay up, and they are 100% responsible. So, kind of gives you a little insight into the whole Epstein deal. They are never at fault. They never are prosecuted. They are never. The law is never used against them. And this is another one that kind of goes with that, in that same vein. Another book in the Talmud, Sanhedrin 57a. The Baraita states, with regard to the following: robbery, if done by a Gentile to another Gentile or by a Gentile to a Jew, it is prohibited. But if a Jew does so to a Gentile, it is permitted. And on bloodshed, if a Gentile murders another Gentile or murders a Jew, he is liable to execution. If a Jew murders a Gentile, he is exempt. And again, I would point you to the whole Epstein situation, where we've got all these people that have done who God knows what to, who knows how many kids, and there's no investigation, no prosecution or anything, because they are exempt from the law when it's done to Gentiles. It's done to anybody who is not a Talmudic Jew. Those are all my graphics that I wanted to show you, but I would encourage you to do some research on your own. I definitely don't want you. I want you to be very careful and guard your heart when you look, and your mind when you're looking at these things. Don't let the enemy get into your head. I would advise reading some scripture before and after you look at this kind of stuff, because it is dark material that you're going to be looking at if you go down that rabbit hole. I want you to also consider this. King Herod was the King Herod the Great was actually the king that tried to kill Jesus when he was still a baby. He ordered the massacre of all the boys in Bethlehem, and that's Jews too. Jews or Gentiles, all the boys in Bethlehem, but especially the Jews, because the supposed Messiah would have to be a Jew. And so he ordered the massacre of all the little boy babies in Bethlehem. That's in Matthew 2:16 through 18. And King Herod that was King Herod the Great. He was an Edomite. He was from Edomian, and he was That is from the tribe of Esau. Those are descendants of Esau. And if you go down, Herod the Great was the one that tried to kill Jesus when he was a baby. His son, Herod Antipas, actually killed John the Baptist, and Jesus called him a fox and warned about him. A fox. What is a fox? Somebody that sly, deceptive. Antipas mocked Jesus. And then he was actually still reigning when Jesus was crucified. So then after Jesus, Herod Agrippa, the grandson of Herod the Great, actually persecuted the early church. And he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword and imprisoned Peter. These were all these were the three King Herod, and the Herodians, which was like a political party that was loyal to Herod. They actually plotted with the Pharisees, who I believe very possibly a lot of the Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes of that day were probably Edomites. If you look in the Gospel of Jesus, he mentions the word hypocrite like 20 times, 17 to 20 times, always referring to the scribes and the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Sanhedrin. And if you look at the Greek meaning of the word hypocrite, hypocrites, that actually means the literal translation of that is actors or pretenders. So just consider that maybe from the very beginning there was deception. You know, the Bible says that Satan was cast down to the earth to deceive the whole world. So he's really good at deception. And he's been playing the long game here. Even look at Judas Iscariot. Most people believe that Iscariot means that he is the man from Kerioth. And Kerioth was in Judea, but it was very close to Edom, or to Edom. And so it's very possible that he was also an Edomite, and he's the one that betrayed Jesus. So just something to think about. Maybe you can do some digging on your own, and if you find something, let me know. But just wanted to go over some of that stuff with you, and maybe I opened some eyes. Hope that I did. But we'll keep on talking about this issue and other issues that are important to us this current day and age. I appreciate you watching. See you on the next one. Bye.